A killer was leaving dismembered bodies across an American city, and no one knew who he was. Heads missing, hands removed, bodies cut with terrifying precision. The victims were left beside railroad tracks in empty fields, in places where someone would eventually find them. And this will become one of America's chilling, unsolved crimes. The city is quiet. Too quiet. Streetlights flicker over wet pavement. A freight train screams through the darkness, its steel wheels biting the rails. Somewhere in Cleveland, a killer is already at work. Not a thief, not a robber. Someone far worse. Someone methodical. Someone who leaves bodies barely recognizable as human. Night falls over Cleveland. A railroad worker walks along the edge of a muddy path near Kingsbury Run. The area is quiet, except for the distant echo of trains passing through the industrial valley. He isn't expecting to find anything unusual. But then, he sees something in the grass. Something pale, something unnatural. At first, he assumes it's a discarded mannequin, or maybe an animal carcass, dumped by someone passing through. He moves closer. The air suddenly feels colder. And then he freezes. Because lying in the weeds is a human torso. No head, no hands, just a body, cut with terrifying precision. The killer had removed the parts that could reveal the victim's identity. No face, no fingerprints. Just silence and a body left beside the railroad tracks. Police arrive quickly. Lights flashing. Boots stomping, radios crackling. But this discovery will only be the beginning. Because over the next several years, more bodies will appear, scattered across the city, along riverbanks in abandoned lots near railroad tracks and empty fields. The newspapers would soon give the killer a name that spread fear across Cleveland. The Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run. But before the fear, before the horrifying headlines, there were people. Real people. One of them was a woman investigators, later called the Lady of the Lake. Her real name was never confirmed. But what was discovered near the shoreline would shock the city to its core. She may have been in her mid-30s, someone's daughter, perhaps someone's sister, maybe even someone's mother. Her body was badly mutilated, and the killer had removed identifying features almost as if he wanted her to disappear forever. And in many ways, she did. No one ever came forward to claim her. No grieving family, no missing person report, just a woman erased from history. Another victim would later be identified as Edward Andraschi, a young man trying to survive during the worst years of the Great Depression. Edward drifted between neighborhoods, taking odd jobs whenever he could find them. Like many others living around Kingsbury Run, he was simply trying to make it through another difficult day. Edward had a brother, a mother who worried endlessly. Small joys, small hopes, snuffed out in an instant. But Edward's life would end in a way no one could have imagined. His decapitated body was discovered beside another victim. 2 lives discarded like nothing. The murders horrified Cleveland, but they also created a terrifying mystery, because whoever was responsible seemed to know exactly what they were doing. The bodies showed disturbing precision. Some victims had been decapitated while still alive. Others showed signs of chemical treatment, almost as if the killer had medical knowledge. Someone who understood anatomy, someone who knew exactly how to destroy evidence. Someone careful enough to leave investigators with almost nothing. Kingsbury Run itself was a harsh place, a sprawling shanty town built from scrap wood, rusted metal, and broken dreams. Thousands of people lived there during the Depression. Unemployed workers, drifters, families with nowhere else to go. Life there was fragile, and when someone disappeared, it sometimes took days or even weeks before anyone noticed, which made it the perfect hunting ground for a killer. As fear spread across Cleveland, whispers began to grow. Who could do something this horrifying? Was it a doctor, A butcher, a madman hiding behind a normal life, or someone the city trusted, someone nobody would ever suspect. Children huddled close to their parents at night. Doors were locked tight, streetlights were avoided. Even a shadow could send shivers down a person's spine. Then, a desperate decision by the city's most famous lawman would change everything. Standing in the middle of Kingsbury Run, Eliot Ness ordered several of the shanty towns burned to the ground. Flames rose into the night sky. Smoke swallowed the valley. Hundreds of homeless residents watched their fragile homes disappear into fire. Ness hoped the killer might be hiding among them. Destroy the hiding places, and maybe the murderer would reveal himself. But the mad butcher never appeared. Then, just as mysteriously as the killings began, they seemed to stop. No dramatic arrest, no courtroom confession, no final clue revealing the killer's identity. Just silence. Investigators quietly focused on a suspect, a troubled doctor with medical skill and psychological instability. Some believed he could be the killer, but evidence was never strong enough to charge him, and the truth slipped away. The victims of the Cleveland torso murders remain a haunting reminder of a darker time. Many identities are still unknown. Many families never found answers, and the killer, the mad butcher of Kingsbury Run, was never caught, which leaves one final question. Did the killer simply stop, or did he leave Cleveland and continue somewhere else, where no one ever connected the crimes? Because somewhere in history, a person capable of unimaginable cruelty walked the streets of Cleveland and disappeared without ever facing justice, and so the streets of Cleveland carry their secrets still. Whispers of the mad butcher linger in the shadows. The victims may be forgotten by the world, but their stories, their lives, remain locked in the darkness. Will justice ever be served, or does the truth walk silently, unseen, somewhere out there, waiting to be discovered? One thing is certain: some monsters leave no trace, and some questions never find answers.